Welcome to New American Mythos, where old stories are kindled like firelight, and we gather round to remember the tales that shaped us. Season 1 took us through the haunted Northeast, Puritan conscience, Dutch folklore, and the moral weather of early America. But this season, we sail farther back. This is Season 2, Echoes of Albion, and it reaches across the sea to the myths that helped form the moral imagination of the English-speaking world long before America even had a name. Because America did not invent itself from nothing. We inherited language, law, hymnody, heroic memory, and a Christian moral order that could both steady a people and accuse them when they drifted. Albion is not our country in a simple way, but it is part of our ancestry. Its stories are older than our flag, yet their echoes still move through our homes, our pulpits, our courts, and our questions. So tonight we begin to step backwards into halls and cloisters, greenwoods and stormy seas, where saints pray, kings rise, outlaws become the judge, and love becomes a fire that can ruin a kingdom. And we listen, not for nostalgia, but for inheritance. Section 1. Why Albion Belongs in New American Mythos. If Season 1 asked us, what is America when it's young and haunted, Season 2 asks something older. What did America come from? Because America did not descend from the clouds. It came through people. Through pilgrims and settlers, yes, but also through centuries of stories that followed their sense of duty, courage, temptation, providence, kingship, and justice. Before there were frontier cabins, there were mead halls. Before there were town covenants, there were oaths spoken at Pentecost. Before there were wilderness revivals, there were monks who believed that the sea itself could become a proving ground for faith. And it matters, because a people who forget their source begin to mistake novelty for truth. They become easy prey for whatever story shouts the loudest. This season is not British tourism. It's moral archaeology. We're digging up older bones to understand the shape of our own. Section 2. A note to the purists, and why we tell these stories in prose. Before we begin, one honest word about how we're telling these. Many of the stories in this season come from multiple medieval sources. Some arrive as fragmentary poems, some come as ballads that changed from singer to singer. Some are saints' lives, hagiographies written to instruct, not to entertain. Some exist in versions that disagree, overlap, or contradict. So what we're doing this season is not always a single text line by line. Often it's something closer to reconstruction. A patchwork, a woven banner, a careful retelling that brings together several streams of the tradition into one coherent narrative, while staying faithful to the shape and moral center of the old material. And because many of these sources were originally in alliterative verse or courtly poetry, or even monastic Latin, we are presenting them in modern prose to make them more accessible to modern listeners. This is not because verse is unworthy. Far from it. Some of the greatest English literature is verse, and it deserves its guardians. But our aim here is different. We're trying to let modern listeners enter the myth without first needing a graduate seminar in meter and manuscript history. So, to the purists, we salute you. We need you. You keep the texts honest. And we hope you'll hear our intent. Not to flatten out the old stories, but to carry their force into a form that can be heard again around a modern hearth. Section 3. The Season Arc. This season moves like a journey. Heroism to kingship, exile to longing, justice to betrayal, and finally to the question of inheritance. Here is the road that we'll walk. Beowulf Part 1 will talk about a people shaped by memory of courage. And then Part 2 of Beowulf will bring kingship, mortality, and the cost of defending a kingdom. After that, we'll see Judith, a story of faith-driven courage, a holy kind of bravery where Providence takes the lead. Fourth will be the Battle of Maldon, courage in defeat, loyalty that refuses to bargain with fear. Halfway through the season, we will meet Saint Brendan and his tale of exile and pilgrimage, the ocean as wilderness, longing for a promised land. Episodes 6 and 7 will be devoted to telling the story of Robin Hood, where we will see outlaw justice, the people's hunger for righteousness, and the bitter memory of freedom. As we approach the end of the season, Episode 8 will be the legend of St. George, where we will learn of faith and courage in defense of the kingdom. Ninth is King Arthur, kingship and covenant, strength yoked to moral law. And finally, we will retell the tragic story of Tristan and Isolde, love and loyalty torn apart, fate and ruin, the kingdom cracking from within. And when it's all done, our season conclusion, asking what remains when the stories end. What did we inherit? And what must we remember? This is not a random set of legends. It's a moral map, and we're excited for you to walk along the trail with us. Section 4. Themes to listen for. As you come with us this season, listen for these recurring themes. Heroic memory, how a people becomes itself by remembering what it once honored. Kingship and covenant, authority received as stewardship, power restrained for good. Exile and longing, the pilgrim heart, the sea road, the homesickness that points beyond itself. Justice at the margins. When law fails, what does conscience demand? Faith as courage, not merely belief, but obedience under pressure. The ruin that begins in private. How kingdoms crack not only by war, but by disordered loves and whispered mistrust. And finally, inheritance. The last question. What do we do with what we have received? Because, in the end, myth is not a museum. It is a mirror. And sometimes it's a warning bell. Support and invitation. This season, if these stories stir something in you, we would like to extend 2 invitations. First, please join the mailing list. The link is in the show notes below. We're building a community of listeners who want more than just noise. Notes, announcements, behind-the-scenes reflections, and the wider thread of what we're doing here. Second, if you'd like to support the show directly, you can join us on Patreon, also linked in the notes. Season 2 will include 2 Patreon bonus episodes at the end of the season, and our seasonal audiobook project, The 4 Branches of the Mabinogi, with free early access for patrons before the public release. Your support really does keep the lantern lit, so thank you. Closing words. So, welcome to Echoes of Albion, a season of saints and monsters, kings and oaths, forests and seas, where the old world's myths still speak, not because we live there, but because we are, in many ways, their descendants. The first full episode begins this Wednesday, Beowulf, in the Hall of the Monster. Until then, keep the fire burning.